Hey everyone, and welcome back to StarMade. We are starting a new survival season. The last one I think was pretty well received with you guys, so thank you guys for the support. But it was quite a little while ago, so we have obviously a little bit more subscribers now. I everyone know. We will be playing in survival, as I said, and we will not be using any of the blueprints from the previous save. I'm going to be making some new ships and hopefully testing out some of the new features that have been added in StarMade since the last time we played. I mean, they've added some things such as like fleet commands, NPC ships that you can actually set to go mine, set to go guard. So I'm really hoping that'll assist us in gathering the materials we need to build a little bit quicker. That was one of the main hindrances last time, because playing in survival, obviously, I have to go mine everything myself, build everything myself, and it does take a little bit of time. For those who have not seen the previous season and have not seen StarMade before, it's basically the best comparison I could make is it's like Minecraft in space. Obviously, from the graphics and just the looks of the game, how, it's blocky in a sense. But it's also similar to Space Engineers in that there's pretty some advanced stuff that you can do in here, from setting up complicated grid and rail systems, conveyor systems, and factories. So it can be pretty sophisticated on what you can do in StarMade. Just go look at some other really great builders out there, and comb the forums. People have made some really cool stuff in this game. So, StarMade also has a pretty big galaxy. So the galaxy here, obviously, it looks like we're in a spiral galaxy. They are randomly generated, and each one of these dots is a new solar system to explore, with its own planets, its own asteroid belts, its own space stations, and things to find. You can see, just going through each of these star points, you can see what we have inside. If we go back to our own position, let's go ahead and look at our little solar system that was generated for us. Alright. These rings around the sun, these are the orbit lines of the planets and also the asteroid belts. The yellow being the asteroid belts, the purple being the planets. The station icons here, these undiscovered stations, they can be anything from derelict shipwrecks, abandoned just stations itself, to pirate stations. They can be a lot of assortment of things. So they're pretty good to have in terms that you might be able to find some really nice cheap resources by checking these, but also you might find some very hostile enemies by checking these. So they're dangerous, but also very rewarding if you're able to claim them and salvage them successfully. We're down here in the bottom corner, obviously. And these other little icons, these are NPC shops where you can buy an assortment of blocks to help you build your ships. And if you end up building a shipyard and saving a ship as a blueprint, you can actually buy a blueprint here and insert that into your shipyard. And the shipyard will then automatically build your ship. So that's a pretty cool feature. We're going to go ahead and, I think, find a planet we want to call home, because having a planet and good real estate, I think, is super important. I'm thinking this green one here, I'm assuming it's going to be an Earth-like because it's green on the map. The yellow are generally desert planets, purple being more alien worlds, and then there's also a blue planet type for ice worlds. These are randomly generated, and the image here, obviously, they're going to be kind of pentagon flat surfaces instead of a sphere. That's just because it is using blocks. So this is their workaround to make an actual planet. So let's go ahead and close out the map. Actually, I have to set my path to the planet we're going to. It looks relatively safe. You don't want to be too close to these stations because they could be pirate stations. And if you start harassing them early on, they will probably kill you. So we're going to go ahead and plot a path here. It'll draw us a straight line, and all we have to do is follow to that waypoint there beside the blinding sunlight of our local star. All right, let's go ahead and build a small ship that'll get us there. We're gonna call this thing shuttle because really that's all we're gonna be using it for. By pressing X and R onto the ship core. The ship core is basically the pilot's seat, and it allows you to edit the structure. Here, there's some basic blocks that we can use to edit the structure. The red arrow indicating the front, obviously we're facing that way now, and we're going to be adding a few blocks on here to get us started. So let's add some power. Usually a very important thing to have. We're just gonna add 6 power cores. At the left there, you can see our mass, how long, high, and wide our ship is, which does govern some attributes in terms of handling of your ship, how much power we have. These power cores do just generate so many a second, and depending on the layout of these, it can generate less or more. So it's very interesting how they're balancing these elements. Our thrusters, which we're going to add now, which is going to give us, obviously, our movement capabilities, and shields and things like that, which we don't have any blocks for. So we'll just press space and go into flight mode. You can see how quick this little ship goes. It's rather responsive. I mean, we aren't having any armor pieces, so if we get attacked, it's going to be pretty bad. A new feature I do want to touch upon, though, is if you go into the ship tab, there's this new thrust tab, and you can actually manage your thrust management. So if you want full forward thrust, we can do that. We can actually tell the ship to be like, you are only going forward and backwards to control your ship. Strafing might not work quite as well. You can see it has this nice 3-point system. So I'm gonna prefer a little bit more acceleration, about a 50, 25, 25 split. I just find that acceleration to be really nice, but we can still go up, down, and even do some rolls. So that'll be pretty cool. Okay, we'll just go ahead and fly on over to our waypoint, which is that planet there. Now, since this is a randomly generated galaxy, obviously I'm gonna have a few frame rate drops as we go through different sectors and generate these planets. That's normal, especially for games like this. The dev team on this is really small. I think it started out as 1 person. They might be up to 3? Question mark. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I know the last time I saw they were around 2. So it's a very bare bones dev team. I'm gonna check our navigation panel here, because if there's any pirates that show up in this tab, we might be too close to a station. So as we approach this, I want to keep an eye on if there's any hostiles in the area. Also, this is, wow, that sun is pretty bright. Here's some asteroids, though. Asteroids come in plenty of different little shapes and sizes. They are randomly generated. You're going to find things that look very metal rich and rocky to lava. As you can see, this one over here has some yellow in it, and it has some lava points. Or maybe even some ice asteroids. A lot of variety in here as we drop frames as this planet loads in. Once you start loading these in frequently, the frames get better and better because it's not going to have to try and generate it as much. You can see there's a little bit of an atmosphere around here, and these planets do have gravity that affect your ship. So you have to be careful coming towards these with a very large ship. Planet core, yeah. So this is the planet we're going to now. In sector 985. So this is our little world. And it does go around the sun. These sectors do rotate. They keep the same numbering, but they are spinning and things do have orbits. So here we are. This is going to be our home. Look at this. This is really nice. This is a really nice generated place. It's going to have some green grass, obviously, some trees. We have some exposed lava vents. Some really nice little mountain ranges here. And mountain ranges are pretty good for kind of your beginning shelter. I really like this valley here. That would be, you know, I think this might be us. This is going to be our base here. So we're just going to set it down. Obviously, like, if I just let go of the controls right now, we're just going to fall. So I'm not pressing anything, and we just hit the dirt. All right. So we're on the planet. Our ship is, well, parked as well as it can. And we'll just go ahead and look at these minerals. So these are the minerals that you'll be mining. They come in different colors, different names. There's quite a vast number of different types. And they do different things depending on what you want to do. So to start out, if you just hold right click on these blocks, you will destroy them over time. I don't know why I'm not getting the little animation for that. There is usually a little kind of animation, but I'm definitely not getting it for some reason. But as long as it's working, that's all I care about. Also, what you can do is use your ship for this. You can put salvage beams onto your ship and use that for mining. Obviously, that is the best way to do this. So we'll just hop into build mode again real quick, and we're going to edit our ship just a hair. I'm going to get rid of the 3 thrusters in the middle. We're going to kind of lower our speed for maybe a little bit more fine control. We want a... oh, well. Obviously, building into the planet is affecting this a little bit, so let's head up into the upper atmosphere where we won't be affected by gravity. Check, make sure there's no hostiles on the way. The hostiles do use their own blueprints, so that's something to keep an eye out for. I'm gonna throw a thruster there, and then let's see if this... yeah, that's gonna have a detrimental effect on our power. So we're just gonna make them a bit longer, move some things around for a little bit more sleek design. Grab our actual module here for the salvage computer. And the way you link these up is you press C on the computer that it is for, and then you just kind of draw a barrel, and as long as they're touching, they're gonna assist one another in making a pretty effective weapon. I don't think that looks cool enough. Though, then again, with such a small ship, can you really make it look cool? Okay, so let's just do something like that. Just a nice little T-junction on top, and we'll press R here so that the beam comes right up over our head. So as a test, you can go into your weapons here and drag that down onto your hotbar. Cool. And we should be able to fire our little beam to do some mining, which is still not showing up. That's very odd. I didn't think I had the beams turned off. It could just be a little glitch that might need to be fixed on a restart, but I'm not too concerned about showing that. The graphics are very basic in terms of weaponry and also sound design in this game, so that's not really what you're playing for. You're playing for more of the creative potential and just the game mechanics. You know, graphics isn't really everything, but you can see that we're just kind of strip mining here and getting rid of some of these green blocks, and they're just going straight into our inventory. And as we do this, we will eventually go in and start creating some things we need to start building stuff, because obviously you can't build a ship with just these little green blobs. You're gonna need some additional resources. You're gonna have to refine them. You're gonna have to build factories and upgraded factories and assemblers and things like that to really get the most out of this game, especially on survival. Creative mode, obviously, you can just build whatever you want, but I enjoy a little bit of a challenge, and also I feel like form and function should definitely go hand in hand. So doing creative mode, you can build some really impressive ships, and they might look really good as well, and they also might function really well. But when you're strapped with resources and things like that, sometimes the designs, I think, can turn out to be a little bit more organic and a little bit more interesting in the long run. Obviously, that's just my opinion. Some people might have their own. Creative games like this, they're definitely best played in your own style. You can mimic people if you want, or you can just build however you feel. Now I sound like Bob Ross. Yeah, I'm basically Bob Ross in space right now. Give me an afro, and I will definitely do that. Okay, so I think that's enough kind of little resources here. We'll just plop down to the ground real quick and see about building something. So we have 195 of this ore. So that's what the large green thing is. It's ore. There's also a crystal, which looks like a little shard, but I'm not seeing any on this planet. Actually, I might need some of that, so we're gonna go hunting for it just real quick on the surface here. It doesn't matter what color shard in the beginning or ore, because you're going to be turning them into these very basic materials. What's this? This is more ore. These are the shards that I was talking about. So they do exist on our planet, though they look a little bit more rare than the ore themselves. We'll just grab this stuff. And I will be brightening up the game in post-processing, just because StarMade tends to be a little dark for YouTube, I find. And for your guys' viewing experience, I hope just turning on a little bit of a lighting balance might assist in making this a little bit more viewable and pleasant on the eyes. Because if videos are dark, I find that people strain, and it might really tire out your eyes when you're watching a video, and could actually get you guys to not enjoy it as much as you could. So let me know in the comments down below if it's too dark, too light, and I can definitely adjust the lighting accordingly. This is a really nice mountain range as well, but I like that valley. That valley was definitely the most interesting. I think it's over here. You'll find that you get lost on these planets really easy because they're just made up of these flat surfaces. You just don't have any landmarks to find your way. Where is it? Come on. I picked out a really nice spot to build a base, and now it is hiding from us. Sometimes the best way is to follow this ridge line here. And that way you can check pretty much all the surfaces attached to one plane. And that will basically allow you to narrow it down. You can also, going farther away, they've really optimized this game a lot more than it used to be. I mean, this used to be really laggy, but I'm getting decent frames for just a Java game here. There we go. There's our little ravine. This is our home. Perfect. And eventually we'll put a beacon here or something so it's easier to find. Alright, out of our ship. And what I want to do is grab these here, and we want to craft. So we're going to refine these raw materials. And refining, obviously there's a graph here that says what makes what. Ore turns into metal mesh, and the shards turn into crystal composite. So you can just drop these in this little box, and each time this bar goes across, you make 10 of your selected material. Well, not selected. If there's nothing else for it to turn into, it kind of auto turns into what it was going to make anyways. So we're going to make a couple of these, and we need a little bit to create a factory, an assembler, and then I think a refinery as well. And all of these also require power. So we might end up having to strip down our ship a little bit just so we can create some power modules and get our factory kind of up and running relatively quickly. We also need to buy a faction block and name our faction. You guys can let me know what you want to name our faction for this series, because I think getting you guys involved would be pretty damn cool. And that's it. So we'll just shift and left click and get all that out. Now, crafting generic resources, that's not what I want. Craft basic factory is what I want. So this is this other screen. You can see what it takes to craft a factory. It's either 10 alloyed metal mesh or 10 crystal composite. You can use either or. I'm going to use metal mesh because obviously we have more ore in this case. So metal mesh is a little bit more abundant for us. And then we have our basic factory here, which we can just kind of slap down onto the planet like so. Now, in multiplayer, you can claim planets, make them your home world, and set permissions for people to build on it. So it's very user-friendly in that sense. Your home world also is invulnerable, but any other planet your faction spreads out to can be sieged and taken over. So that is something to keep in mind. Now we're just going to throw some power modules on here. And take a look. The capacity is only 5,000. It's going to charge 238 per second. And the factory is going to drain that. As you press R, that thing on the top right there is going to change as this thing goes through and takes a certain amount of power each tick. So we're going to change the production of our factory. And what we want is one of the other factories. There's definitely a couple. There's the capsule refinery. There is the assembler, I believe, somewhere in here. And there's also different levels of these things. Here's the reactor module, so we can make more power. And as our factory grows, we're going to need more of that power. We can also make ship cores. Here's the standard factory in here. There's definitely a lot of stuff. These are all basic things that the first factory can make. So let's make a few power cores. And I think that might require the capsule thing first. So we'll make the capsule refinery. There's a search function as well, so if you know what you're looking for exactly. Here's the recipe for the capsule refinery. Can I make this bigger so you guys can see? No. The box gets bigger, but the text does not. So we need 10 metal mesh and 10 crystal composite combined. So here's the metal mesh, and here is the crystal composite, and that should pump out 1. Just like so. I'll put the capsule refinery on this side here, and I'm also going to deactivate it. That way it's not draining our power, as I want to try and see what the power reactor module takes to make. So if we view the recipe here, it's going to take 20 metal mesh. That ain't bad. So we'll just pop that in there, and we'll get 2 more power modules. So it doesn't look like we're going to have to disassemble our ship just yet, which is nice. And we can extend this. I'm going to make it a little bit taller. I think 4 tall is okay to start. And the way these work is a little confusing. I'll try and explain it when we get to that point. Crystal composite. Let's see. View of these. So you can see these ore turns into capsules and metal mesh. So it's a lot more efficient to use your refineries here rather than handcrafting things. So if we just pop in this ore, activate production again. There. And we're going to deactivate production on this. That way it's not sapping any energy. We're getting capsules. We're also getting metal mesh. These capsules also, I think, can be used for different things. I think we can craft them actually on our own and just refine them back into metal mesh a lot quicker here. So we're just gonna refine these down just real quick, and it's a lot faster than handcrafting. You can see that green bar is really going. You can even add more modules onto this, and it just increases the speed of these exponentially. So you can really crank up production and have these rather robust crafting facilities with auto sorting, and it can get pretty intense with what you can do. So we're just gonna take 20 alloyed metal mesh here. We're gonna activate production, and we'll make, what is that gonna be? That's gonna be 10? Yeah, 10 more power reactors, and that should do us for total power. And then after we have power, what we need is a little bit of storage, because we're not gaining total capacity in our reactors. So no matter how quickly our reactors recharge, capacity might be something we want to have in the long run as we go through and use a lot more power up at a time and not it might recharge quickly enough, but 500 total capacity might not be enough to distribute it well into our machines. So that's why you want to increase your capacity and hopefully do well in that sense. We could also do some mining while it's doing this and really multitask. So this is where power is going to get a little weird looking. Our current rate is 476. Now, in theory, you could just do this, right? And you can just extend this, check it again, it's 689. I mean, that's an increase. It's definitely, it can work like that if you want it to. Or, you can see now, just removing those three, it's at 614. We only lost about 50 power per second. And the reason is that you don't want a lot of these touching side by side. The best way is making little L shapes. And the reason is the game assumes this L shape are power modules, but then it also fills in the rest of that XYZ plane with energy potential, you could say. So filling those in with power modules actually lowers the total power output on these. And you can even take it into an X, Y, and Z plane like this, and that is technically kind of the most efficient shape per size. At least that's how I remember it. Obviously, now, with the exact same amount of blocks, we are generating 1097 power. So that's a 400 power increase than just putting 2 rows of 4 next to each other. Now, you can also, as long as they're not touching side by side, they can touch on the corners, and it doesn't count. So you can really intertwine these power modules and get some pretty interesting shapes with these. So what you can do is I can start another pillar here, take it up 4, just like the other one, and do something like this. And in this space, we are now generating 1860 total power on this planet. Our capacity is still 500 though, so obviously if all of our refineries are acting at once and taking 600 power every time they activate, that's not enough power to distribute and they actually won't function. So what you want to do is change the production. You can actually get these maybe a little bit closer together depending on how you want to do it, but I'm being a little bit lazy on here. Well, we're going to search up power again, if I don't press enter like a silly person, and go into the drop down. The power capacitor, this is what we need now, and it's going to take crystal composite. So they go hand in hand. Crystal composite for the capacitor and the metal mesh for just the simple generator. Because capacity is super important to have. And what you can do with these, they kind of act the same. If they're touching side by side in a certain pattern, they're less efficient. But you can fill these gaps in between these power modules with them because they go hand in hand so well. And now we have a capacity of 2570 with a charge rate of 1860. So that should be good enough to run all of our machinery, pumping out resources here. And you can watch this happen if you press R kind of on these power reactors spontaneously a little bit. You can see that it drops, the capacity drops a little bit, and then just refills with our charge rate. So that is kind of the basics of getting started on StarMade. I know there was about a 30-minute episode. It was almost like a tutorial, if you think about it, of just how to get started. But I find these to be very important, especially if someone who hasn't played the game before wants to pick up the game because they saw me play it, and it looks interesting. It used to be free. I don't know if it's still free anymore. I paid for it long ago, but that's something you can find on Steam. It is on Steam, and you should be able to pick it up and play if you're interested. And you can share blueprints online and everything. It's a very, I find this game to be really great, though RAM intensive. So, I mean, I'm allocating 8 gigs of RAM for this game, and it's still a little laggy from time to time when new terrain kind of generates. But I think this is going to do us for the first episode of our survival series. I'm going to spend some time in between episodes mining, gathering some resources, as that's a little dull, especially with such a basic ship that we have now. I don't really want to take you guys through that process of getting enough resources to expand our facilities, but we have a planet to call home, and hopefully eventually we might start designing a little bit of the base and slowly building up to start working on a fleet of some kind, here progressing in the next 10 or so episodes. I don't know how long it's going to take to get there, but I definitely want to get there with you guys. And of course, suggestions always welcome in the comments down below. If you guys enjoyed the episode, feel free to leave a like. Go ahead and subscribe if you're new. Check out my other stuff. I do a bunch of creative builds on this channel, and also Ghost of a Tale, which is a great little RPG where you follow a mouse's adventure through a rat's world. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and until then, I'll see you again in some more StarMade.